For decades, aviation experts and fans have been arguing over which fighter truly ruled the Pacific, the Corsair or the Hellcat. One was faster, more aggressive, and visually iconic, and the other was quieter, deadlier in practice, and built for the practical reality of carrier war. Today, we're not repeating the debate, we are settling it. The Hellcat's wide-track landing gear and well-damped tailhook absorbed carrier impacts smoothly, which minimized bounce and missed wires even under rough sea conditions. This forgiving behavior dramatically reduced deck accidents and allowed consistent recoveries by average pilots operating under combat fatigue. In contrast, the Corsair's narrow-track, stiff landing gear rebounded violently, and its early tailhook design often skipped arresting cables entirely. These flaws elevated landing risks to unacceptable levels until major redesigns corrected both rebound and hook geometry. The Hellcat's raised cockpit and downward-sloped cowling gave pilots a continuous view of the deck and landing signal officer through touchdown, allowing precise lineup corrections during the final seconds of approach. By comparison, the Corsair's aft cockpit placement left the pilot effectively blind on final approach, forcing reliance on peripheral cues and memorized deck geometry. This problem could be further worsened by oil and hydraulic leaks that smeared the windshield during carrier landings, a common occurrence in high-power, low-speed approaches. The Hellcat moved from prototype to fleet service in under a year, replacing the Wildcat with minimal pilot retraining and little disruption to carrier air group operations. The Corsair, however, failed early carrier trials outright and was relegated to land bases until British carrier modifications, such as clipped wings, altered oleos, and curved approach techniques made it viable for carrier operations in 1944. Even then, it required procedural discipline and experienced pilots. Aerodynamically, the Hellcat's airfoil provided ample buffet warning before stall, giving pilots time to make corrective inputs during the most dangerous phase of flight. The Corsair's sharp taper and gull-wing aerodynamics produced abrupt, asymmetric stalls with little warning, sometimes dropping a wing without notice. Near the deck, this behavior was unforgiving. During wave-offs, the Hellcat's large tail surfaces gave strong rudder authority and predictable yaw control, while the Corsair's shorter tail and massive prop torque could induce rapid, uncontrollable roll if power was applied aggressively. Finally, the Hellcat emphasized modularity and accessibility, allowing rapid deck-level repairs and consistently high mission-ready rates. The Corsair, while structurally strong, was more complex. High-pressure hydraulics frequently leaked in tropical conditions, increasing maintenance time and reducing sortie generation. The Hellcat won by minimizing pilot workload and enabling rapid fleet integration. The Corsair offered superior performance but demanded mastery and time to mature. The Corsair's flush riveting and smooth skin minimized skin friction drag, while its slim fuselage reduced form drag and maximized efficiency from its engine. The Hellcat's riveted, boxier airframe deliberately accepted higher parasitic and pressure drag in exchange for ruggedness, structural tolerance, and ease of production. This philosophical divide defined their combat roles. Exhaust thrust augmentation and low drag allowed the Corsair to exceed 400 miles per hour, giving it roughly a 30-mile-per-hour advantage over the Hellcat. This margin enabled reliable interception, disengagement at will, and the ability to dictate the terms of combat. The Hellcat's lower top speed limited pursuit options, often forcing pilots to fully commit to engagements they could not easily exit. The Corsair retained speed exceptionally well, enabling strong zoom climbs, repeated vertical attacks, and rapid repositioning after firing passes. The Hellcat's drag bled energy quickly in turns, and it struggled in sustained vertical combat. These traits made the Corsair a classic vertical energy fighter, while the Hellcat excelled as a stable horizontal dogfighter optimized for controlled firing solutions rather than aggressive maneuver loops. At altitude, the Corsair's wing root ducting and mid-fuselage intercoolers maintained high manifold pressure above 30,000 feet, preserving engine output where many contemporaries faded. The Hellcat's simpler induction system lost efficiency above roughly 25,000 feet, limiting its effectiveness in high-altitude interception roles. As a result, the Corsair dominated at altitude, while the Hellcat remained strongest at medium and low levels. In dives, the Corsair could accelerate faster before compressibility affected control. Its streamlined airframe could over-accelerate, and its rugged landing gear could even be used as a crude dive brake. The Hellcat's higher drag limited dive speed and reduced effectiveness against fast diving opponents. The Corsair's inverted gull wing enabled straight retracting gear, strong spars, and a cleaner fuselage. The Hellcat's longer folding gear favored carrier survivability over rigidity. Combined with a larger prop and exhaust thrust, the Corsair converted engine power into acceleration more efficiently. It was the definitive performance fighter. The Hellcat sacrificed efficiency for stability, production speed, and pilot survivability. The Hellcat's famous 19-to-1 kill ratio is now assessed closer to 13-to-1 due to overclaiming, but even revised figures confirm its overwhelming effectiveness. The Corsair still shows a lower ratio, largely due to delayed carrier adoption and fewer engagement opportunities, not inferior capability. Context matters. The Hellcat's exceptional stability made it an ideal gun platform for average pilots, producing dense, accurate fire with minimal workload. Its predictable handling allowed pilots to focus on aiming rather than aircraft management. The Corsair was steady at combat speed, but demanded greater skill due to forward visibility limits, torque sensitivity, and sharper stall behavior. Structurally, the Hellcat's heavy build and armor earned it the aluminum tank reputation, allowing it to absorb catastrophic damage and still return to the ship. The Corsair was similarly rugged, but vulnerable at its wing root oil coolers, where hits could blind pilots or seize engines. Designed for simplicity, the Hellcat required fewer maintenance hours and maintained higher sortie rates during sustained operations. The Corsair's complex hydraulics and structure increased downtime. In carrier warfare, availability mattered more than peak performance. The Hellcat's forgiving handling, visibility, and landing behavior made novice pilots combat effective quickly. The Corsair rewarded elite skill, but punished mistakes, requiring technical fixes and extensive training. The Hellcat secured fleet air dominance and later evolved into a capable strike aircraft. The Corsair, with its superior ordnance load and range, excelled as a fighter-bomber. Together, the Hellcat cleared the skies, while the Corsair delivered heavier firepower. The Corsair evolved into a heavy tactical strike aircraft, lifting up to 4,600 pounds in Korea, comparable to a B-17's bomb load, though at far shorter range. Its efficient aerodynamics, strong wing spars, and dense hardpoints supported extreme mixed loads, while the Hellcat's drag-heavy structure limited post-war growth. The Corsair's piston engine delivered superior low-altitude efficiency and long loiter times, outperforming early jets during close air support missions. Its persistence and precision made it indispensable in complex terrain. The inverted gull wing enabled a massive propeller, short landing gear, and future engine growth without redesign. Internal volume supported advanced cooling, cannon armament, and post-war avionics upgrades. The Corsair exploited early jet weaknesses by forcing low-speed, low-altitude engagements where swept wings struggled. Terrain masking defeated early radar, enabling night and strike missions. The Corsair served from Korea to the 1969 Football War, participating in the last piston engine dogfights. Continued production into the 1950s and combat use by France proved its adaptability. The Hellcat ended with World War II. The Corsair bridged piston and jet eras. The Hellcat was the perfect industrial war winner, reliable, forgiving, decisive in 1944. The Corsair was the architectural survivor, adaptable, enduring, and versatile. The Hellcat won the Pacific Air War. The Corsair outlived it. Thank you for watching, and see you in our next videos.